Hello, everybody, and thank you for tuning into the Liberty Report. With us today, we have Daniel McAdams, our co-host. Daniel, good to see you this morning.
Good morning, Dr. Paul. How are you?
Very well, thank you. Do you think the people in this country are thinking about elections?
A little bit, yes.
It's in the news. There's a lot of experts because they probably don't need us. We don't qualify.
Yeah.
But we still have a couple people we'd like to know what we're thinking about. And today we're thinking about, somebody that we talk about and we recognize good things and bad things. And he certainly is getting a lot of attention. And it looks like the Democrats may have thrown in the towel. Looks like Trump has control of things. Maybe his experience with TV. Do you think that has anything to do with it? But we can say, boy, Trump just really missed it because he had a great stunt at McDonald's.
Yeah.
But do you think he could have been spreading E. coli?
I hope not. I don't wonder what he's doing with those French fries.
I'll tell you. The first thing I thought of is, it's probably one of those things that, the Democrats have something. It'll probably backfire on them because my first reaction will be, could they plant that?
Yeah, no kidding. Yeah.
And there'll be others who might think of that too.
Yeah.
And we'll never know.
We'll never know, yeah.
But anyway, there's a lot of troublemakers for sure. But Trump is sick and tired of what's going on here, and he's not too keen on the British right now.
Yeah.
Because this is a secret, but they've been interfering in our elections, and people knew about it, but it's become very apparent now. Enough that the evidence is strong enough that Trump felt that there will be no political risk in telling the truth about what the British have been doing.
Yeah.
And so he's using the process and going to the FEC, Federal Election Commission, to file a complaint. So, but it's late, so maybe they won't look at that, not this week or next week, maybe next month or something. But anyway, the news is out there, and I think that's very, very important that it is there. So he said that the British are interfering, and they were giving advice, but now they're actually sending people over here, and I think it's very clear that they're interfering. But I thought, this might be a time when this becomes very obvious who's on which side. Mm-hmm. That maybe people that have that joined the hate crowd, about Russiagate.
Yeah.
Maybe they'll say, well, maybe there were lies told with Russiagate too, and but that's already, I think, softened. The hysteria that was associated with that. But and that was pretty serious when you think of what they did there. But anyway, this will be discussed for a few days, I guess, and. We'll see what happens, but Trump is not going to let things go by if he has the evidence.
Yeah, I mean, there are so many layers of irony with this story, and we put it up. This is it's being covered all over. This is the Hedge's talk on it. Trump files formal complaint of election interference against the UK Labour Party, and again, what has apparently happened, if you go to the next one, is that the Labour Party has sent over people. Now, here's the complaint filed with the FEC on October 21st, cites media reports which show that strategists linked to Britain's Labour Party have been offering advice to Kamala Harris about how to earn back disaffected voters and run a winning campaign from the center left. If you go to the next one, here's a smoking gun, so to speak. Sophia Patel is head of operations at the Labour Party. She put out a statement saying, I have nearly 100 Labour Party staff, current and former, going to the U.S. in the next few weeks, heading to North Carolina, Nevada, Pennsylvania, and Virginia. I have 10 spots available for anyone to head to the battleground states of North Carolina. We will sort your housing. Email me at da-da-da-da-da if you're interested. So she's clearly looking for people. And if you go to the next one, just as a reminder, that under federal law, if you put that next one up, foreign nationals are prohibited from directly or that next clip, please, prohibited from directly or indirectly making contributions, donations Go back one there. Thank you. Expenditures, including independent expenditures and disbursements in connection with any federal, state, or local election.
Well, this seems so blatant. She would know what the law is.
Should, yeah.
Was this something, do you think they discovered this, or did she just post it? It just seems so weird.
Well, I think this goes on a lot, and I think what's happening is that Trump is making a stink about it. It's very blatant and obvious. Apparently, this happens all the time. Of course, we would never do that,
Right.
which is one of the layers of irony, because this is exactly what the U.S. government does in every election overseas. You remember back in the 90s when the Clinton people sent over a whole team to make sure that Yeltsin got reelected. It was even on the cover, I think it was Newsweek, Yanks to the rescue, about the U.S. rescuing his campaign. So that's one layer of irony, that we do it all the time, but now it's being done to us. But the other one, too, is as you started, Dr. Paul, it's not the Russians, it's not the Iranians like we're being told, it's actually our closest ally, second closest ally, the UK.
It's all based on lies.
Yeah.
They have to build up the lies. The system is built that way in order to maintain it. They have to do something like this. Then they have to manufacture the reason why people have to be blindly supportive of democracy.
Yeah.
This is their form of democracy. A little bit slanted one way or the other, a couple dollars spent here and there, but and I keep thinking, if people are unhappy, and there's a lot of people, the country is split on one half hates one group, the other one despises the other group, and not many people stop and think, can't you see what's going on in this country? Economically, our foreign policy and everything else has a lot to do with this obsession with the majority vote. Or the majority complacency is what it is. They vote sometimes by, one pet peeve I have is everybody is for everybody to vote. Yeah, just like Russia. Everybody voted in Russia.
Yeah.
No, that to me is so disgusting, because I think if I were ever asked that question, I would say, if you intend to vote for me, and if you know a little bit about what liberty is all about, I encourage you to vote and let the chips fall where they may.
Yeah.
Why round up the people to vote? Anyway, that's heresy. So I hope nobody recognizes that.
Well, the funny thing is also another irony. This is a classic projection. The Democratic Party, for the entire 4 years of Trump's first presidency, were saying that the Russians are interfering. Russiagate, as you mentioned, Russiagate. You're colluding with the Russians. Well, it turns out it was projectionism, because it was actually the Democratic Party that's colluding with the foreign government. And, someone who's a very smart person who's been on the show before, good friend Nigel Farage from the UK, he gets it. And he put out a tweet. He posted an article saying that Trump's campaign, it wants to be investigated why the Labour Party is interfering in our elections. Nigel Farage says this was a terrible decision by Keir Starmer's government, who have now, 1, surrendered vital Chagos Islands, 2, sent 100 Labour Party campaigners to support Kamala Harris, and 3, already insulted the incoming Trump administration. Now, while Farage might be jumping the gun a little bit on incoming, it does look positive right now for Trump. And can you imagine how UK-US relations are going to be if there is a second President Trump administration and the UK was actively trying to undermine his campaign? Farage is right. It's a dumb move.
I can think of where the real chaos will come, because the country has already decided who's winning, and there'll be surprises. But what happens if there's a 3 or 4 day counting period and Kamala wins?
Yeah.
Well, I'll tell you what, that's going to be messy.
Yeah.
But the others could be messy too,
could be, yeah.
Even with Trump winning.
Yeah, could be, for sure.
Right? Who knows? Because there are some people talking about, being very annoyed by that, and there are some Republicans that have joined that group of hate Trump.
Yeah. Yeah, there have been a few.
I think when I think of people doing that, I think of what the criminals do in prison. If you become a squealer, the term, they've ratted them out. So I think there's something about being in a party, and then all of a sudden, I don't like it, so I'm going to rat out and tell them what's really going on.
Yeah. Well, here's a weird twist to this story, and this is thanks to Paul Thacker and Matt Taibbi. Matt, we know, Paul is worked in the Senate, very interesting person, but both investigative journalists. Now, they put out an article on the Disinformation Chronicle, a Substack that Thacker runs, and there's an interesting twist to this whole thing, because it's not just them sending over 100 people to help Kamala Harris, but the organization that is involved with this is the Center for Countering Digital Hate, which was founded by a British political operative who's now advising Kamala Harris, but very close to Keir Starmer, the Labour Prime Minister in the UK. So they have multiple agendas. One, they want to get Kamala elected, but the other one is quite interesting now. And this is a whistleblower released these documents to Taibbi and Thacker, and it's explosive, because if you put that next one up, here are their objectives. So it says, in an explosive leak with ramifications, their plans, this is kind of a spreadsheet, Dr. Paul, of their plans, and their annual priorities. You can see this highlighted. Number 1, kill Musk's Twitter. So their real goal is to take down Twitter, which is a relatively free speech platform. The Center for Countering Digital Hate is an anti-speech organization. They're anti-free speech. They want to grab a hold of Twitter and shut it down because they hate free speech. So in addition to interfering in our elections, they also want to destroy our First Amendment here.
There's no doubt about it, and I think that is a top-notch goal that they have. And it's still is so annoying, even though I try to understand exactly what's going on, how blatant they are.
Yeah.
Whether it's a change in economic policy, changing to a positions that makes no sense whatsoever, but also this idea of their understanding of the article, the First Amendment,
Yeah.
Because it's so blatant, and they do this without a blink of an eye. Oh well, we don't follow the. So we don't follow the Constitution that closely. You have to have a Constitution that is flexible, and you can't wait for it to be amended. Is their problem?
Yeah. So it's dangerous. This Center for Countering Digital Hate, they as we talked about projectionism, they masquerade as an anti-disinformation organization. In fact, they are disinformation. But so anyway, news that they are trying to knock out Twitter hit Elon Musk's ears. He was not too happy. Put this next clip up, because Paul Thacker, the author of this explosive investigation, now he tweeted out, exclusive documents working with Matt Taibbi report on the Center for Countering Digital Hate, documents showing Labour Party's objective is to kill Musk's Twitter through advertising focus. Means they want to harass his advertisers and drive him into the ground. Elon Musk retweeted this tweet saying, "This is war," and I have that highlighted. So that almost makes me want to pop some popcorn, Dr. Paul, and see what's going to happen.
But they're always countering the people that are hateful, and telling lies. but you already mentioned that they use the same tool they accuse their opposition for doing.
Yeah. So we'll keep an eye on this, and thanks to Thacker and Taibbi, thanks to Substack, because we would not have known this if we only had the mainstream media, if we didn't have Twitter X to rely on.
I keep wanting to be optimistic about that the private system is so good that even with the government, struggling because they're on the defensive right now, because it is the private system and the computer age that really undermined the credibility of all three major networks. I mean, that happened.
Exactly.
And it was also slowly and dangerously done, because so many people died, was counteracting all the lies told about COVID. And yet they're still there, and sometimes that's the only tool they have left. Build it up, and then some people say, what we have to do is we'll have to resort to violence if we don't do that. If we can't change our minds.
That's terrible. Well, we'll keep an eye on this too, and keep reporting on it. But the other story we wanted to cover today is Anthony Blinken was sent to Israel again. I don't know how many times he's been there, lots of times. Every time he goes, it gets sadder and sadder because he's pretending that he's a diplomat, and he's obviously not. So he goes over there and gets slapped around by Netanyahu a few times. You know, he's like the Fredo of secretaries of state. He gets slapped around a little bit. Netanyahu laughs, puts him back on a plane, sends him home. But put the next one on. Now this is from our friend Dave DeCamp at Anti-War. Netanyahu and Blinken discuss, quote, uniting against Iran. And this is Netanyahu who said the issue of the Iranian threat was raised, including the need for both countries to unite against it. Of course, that is another way of saying Netanyahu is demanding that American troops go to war with Iran for his regional territorial aspirations. So anyway, he went, he came back, and doesn't look like he got much for it.
Yeah, but once again, they're so naive that they're putting it out there as if it's normal to conspire for a war. They were conspiring to put the American people at war, but it happens all the time. I mean, we're at war in Ukraine, we're at war in the Middle East, we're at war and lining up some other places to go. Who knows? Things aren't exactly settled in Taiwan either. So there's some people who are just looking for it, for the trouble. And that is what's scary, is how easy they accept it. People don't ask the question. I think that this would probably dumbfound the founders of this country, that there would be so much complacency, even though they hinted that you better be on the alert for it.
Yeah. Well, the thing about Netanyahu, he may be a bad guy, but he's not stupid. He knows how to play things, and he's very good at playing politics. That's how he survived for so long. Put on the next clip. Now, this is from that article, and it says, now they went to discuss how Israel was going to retaliate against Iran's retaliation for Israel assassinating Iranians. On and on we go, but this was supposedly what the deal was about. It's unclear how big Israel's attack on Iran will be or when it will happen, but it's expected to take place before the U.S. presidential election on November 5th. Now, I highlighted that, Dr. Paul, because that's first of all, it shows Netanyahu understands timing very well. He's going to get away with it there because all eyes are going to be on something else. He does it all the time. Yeah, he does it all the time. He's a master at that. All eyes are going to be something else, and he's going to let him have it. Iran has promised, though, if they do this time, they will respond in a very, very large way. So it could be a massive war on the eve of the election.
You know, in that article from David DeCamp, I think that we mentioned it, but I wanted to read just a little bit of it. The U.S. is supporting Israel's plans to attack Iran by vowing to defend Israel from any retaliation. The U.S. has deployed THAAD air defense. Well, yeah, we know about that, and about 100 troops.
Yeah.
Well, has that been approved? Do the American people know about this?
Yeah.
That's sort of like a war?
Yeah.
Okay, 100 troops to operate on Israeli territory, which could become, now I think could become a potential target of Iranian missiles. Yeah. And that's the real danger. And we make this point, over and over again, that once you start, most of the time it's very secret what they're doing. It's also possible that the U.S. directly supports the Israeli attack on Iran, either by providing intelligence or launching strikes of its own, plus the 100 troops there. Yeah. So, boy, you're looking for a time bomb. The day before the election?
Yeah.
Or?
Absolutely. And if those 100 troops, which they're not going to all be gathered around the THAAD, but that THAAD is an absolute target. If Iran wants to hit back at Israel, that THAAD would be number one. Because if you take out their air defense, then you send in your missiles. That's what they did last time. So those American troops operating that THAAD are directly in a bullseye. Yet, and even though the War Powers Act is a terrible piece of legislation for a number of reasons, this is a classic reason why it was intended. This is what it was intended for. The president can't send troops into potential combat situations without an okay from Congress. But there has been no one there's no one bringing privilege resolutions to the floor saying, we need to talk about this. You can't send those troops. Total quiet, total silence.
And they do this with the idea that if we just do this, if there's a leader pop up, all we have to do is kill him. Yeah. And not realizing they make all they do is increase the number of martyrs.
Yeah.
And the determination of the people that have lived under these conditions. So it really doesn't achieve anything for their benefit. It doesn't achieve anything for anybody.
Yeah.
The American people, the soldiers that have to go, and even the people think, oh, this will be settled, and we're gonna wipe everybody off the map in Gaza, and we're gonna resettle it. And there's always going to be people that remember, you know, what it was like to have a pseudo, at least, ownership of a country. And hopefully it doesn't come to our country this way sometimes too. But they want the country that they have, and that's why I don't think this will achieve anything. I think the people will fight. I don't think and this may be wrong. That I think in time, because time is something that some of these people, if you think about time, think of the Afghans.
Yeah.
How long have they waited?
They waited and waited.
Years and years and centuries, but they always remember it's their country.
Yeah.
And I think basically that is the way that'll be. So it's just naive to think, oh, all we have to do is send the troops down and scare them and threaten them, and we will show that we are working together. And then they will get some positive propaganda out about why it's so necessary, and we just stopped World War III, by aggravating the situation.
The thing about Blinken is an interesting specimen because he's absolutely impotent. He goes somewhere, he asks for something, they say no, and he goes home. And he's incompetent. He has failed to employ diplomacy anywhere he's gone. The neocons and the hawks always say, well, you're projecting weakness. He literally is. I mean, that is literally true. Now look at this tweet that he put out this morning as he was leaving Israel. It's just projecting weakness. He says, Israel has achieved important strategic objectives to ensure that October 7th can never happen again. Now is the time to end the war, get the hostages home, and chart a new path forward that enables the Palestinian people to rebuild their lives. So basically what this is Blinken saying, hey guys, you got what you want. Can you please end this war now? And here's the response from Israel. Go to the next one. A conference happening over the last few days. This is a tweet from Zero Hedge. Israeli ministers call for expulsion of Palestinians at the Resettle Gaza conference. They had an entire conference, you can see it there, where members of Netanyahu's administration calling for the expulsion of everyone in Gaza. And go to the next one. As Gaza burns, Israeli settlers make real estate plans. They are literally at this conference saying, we're going to get you some beachfront property. Now here's Ben Gvir, one of the more extremist members of Netanyahu's government. Put the next one up. Here's a tweet from Middle East Eye in which it says, Ben Gvir told the audience that Israel would encourage what he called the voluntary transfer of all Gazan citizens, saying, we will offer them the opportunity to move to other countries because that land belongs to us. We are the owners of this land. So Blinken goes over and says, okay, guys, can you please stop this war now? And Israel spits in his face and says, no, we're going to kick everyone out and take over.
But I wonder, too, for some people, they'll see this, well, it's a tough situation, and he's at least offering an olive branch and pretending something. So a few people are going to say, well, they're making an effort and trying to make the best of the situation. But it's all really a farce on what they're doing, because they don't start with the principle of minding our own business. Because how much of this mess would happen without our support, our money, our intelligence gathering, our participation in the global organizations, and NATO, and the whole work. So we morally we cannot escape a major blame for what's going on, because and that maybe that's what some people are hopeful for, that Trump will have an attitude, enough is enough, you quit it or we're going to do it. But we don't know. We don't know what to believe, because if some of the people we talked about yesterday are in the cabinet, it's not going to be easy to sell it to them.
Well, Trump advertises himself as the most pro-Israeli president we will ever have and what have you. And that might actually be something to that because, as we've said on the show many times, sometimes being pro-Israeli is to tell them, listen guys, knock it off. We're not going to give you any more weapons. You're backing yourselves into a corner. You're irritating every country around you. They're going to gang up on you, and we're not going to be there to help you because we've given all our weapons to Ukraine. We can't help you anymore. So knock it off, guys. So that actually, I think that would be a very pro-Israel thing.
I've made that type of an argument because I said, if they were more on their own, there would be an incentive not to come here, get the money and weapons and bombs and participation. What they might do is actually have conversation with their neighbors. It would be in their best interest, and I think a lot of Israelis would satisfy that too. But they wouldn't be allowed to express themselves.
Yeah.
You say, oh yeah, well we need to be nice to these other people. Yeah. But they were at one time in history. They would talk to people, and it wasn't one of these things that we had to give up everything. And they're more aggressive on their demands. The Israelis are not backing off one bit.
Yeah. Despite what Blinken says.
Yeah, he was appealing to just a small number of people.
Yeah. Well, I'm gonna close out, Dr. Paul, and I'm just gonna put on that very last clip because I got up this morning and something very happy happened. I looked at my email. If we put up that very last clip, please. I looked up at our email and someone had donated some Bitcoin to the Ron Paul Institute, and that makes me happy. And I don't want to ask for money every day, but we do need donations to keep this show and the Ron Paul Institute alive in all that we do, including our conferences, including the Ron Paul Scholars Seminar that we would love to try to expand. So I was thrilled, Dr. Paul, to see a nice Bitcoin donation. If you're watching this program right now and you have your wallet app, copy and paste this QR code and make a tax-deductible anonymous donation to the Ron Paul Institute. Thank you for your continued support. Over to you, Dr. Paul.
Very good. And once again, as I do usually every day, is to acknowledge our viewers and our friends and thank them for their help. Because it is very important, because for us to spread a message, it's going to have to be sort of an old-fashioned word-of-mouth pamphleteering, so to speak, in the modern age. And you know what? I usually I'm very modest in predictions and say, oh, tomorrow this is such and such is going to happen, because I don't want to overstate things. I want to be fair and balanced on expectations. But we have had some indication that the numbers of people who are interested in what we're doing with our program, I found out, I'm learning a little bit more about computers, that it's just not the number of people who happen to click on for this program today in the last 30 minutes. That there's other ways this message spreads, and that there's a fair number of people that are doing that. And that to me is encouraging, because that's the name of the game. That we want to get a message out, and I think in many ways we have been successful. I've been very pleased over the years to meet young people, elderly people, everybody who may have been introduced to our message and have started their own programs. They have their own list. They do their own letter. They do their own blog. They do their own programming. So I think it's out there. Like I said, the remnant is unknown. The numbers of people on there, and I believe the remnant for liberty is continuing to grow. I want to thank everybody once again for tuning in to the Liberty Report. Please come back soon.